Good morning. So today I actually wanted to talk more about sleep paralysis, and I did a whole video on it the day before yesterday, but it was just missing some things. I really think that video, to be truly thorough, it's got to be a lot longer. I tried to cram it into 27 minutes, and it just and I tried to film it outside because that topic is really dark, and I'm trying to keep things as light and airy as possible, because a lot of the stuff that I've come out of in this last couple of years has been really, really dark, but I don't want to live there anymore. It's my life that I've created now has been so light and airy and filled with gratitude, and I am just so happy all the time, and I can't believe it. I have to pinch myself all the time. Like, is this real? Is this real? I've never been sustainably happy for this long and by myself. It's because I finally found how to love myself and respect myself and find my worth and all of that. And so overcoming a lot, fear, anxiety, panic disorder, nightmares, sleep paralysis, relationship issues, addiction issues, all of that stuff was kind of all in one lump, which was why it was really hard to get through all of it. It was overwhelming, completely overwhelming. And that's why I'm going to in the future too, talk a lot about detoxing, because all of this would not have been possible without creating a more pure and clear baseline, having my vessel clear, lightening up my body so that everything else kind of just fell into place, and I was able to take practical steps every day to keep my eyes on the prize and have the strength to do it, because I was in a very, very weak, defeated time in my life. So since A, I never want to be there ever again, and B, this feels so great, I've dedicated a lot of time and energy into how to stay in this vibration, how to stay in this frequency, and only attract the things into my life that I really want. And in this journey, I realized a year ago how I have got to share this juicy stuff with people, because when I was first embarking on this journey, I was looking on YouTube and just trying to find anything to cling on to for hope, So now that it's been enough time and I'm able to, see it in the past, and I can laugh about it, and I've truly, gotten over it, it's safe to talk about it, and put my vulnerability and my embarrassments and my clumsiness all aside, and my horrible storytelling skills. But, in this, I'll be able to learn more and get less clumsy, and learn more about this whole world. But so this journey will always continue. I'm always going to be on the path of personal growth now and self-development, and it's so fulfilling that I'm always, instead of reaching for hope and reaching for comfort, now I'm reaching for how to expand. How do I continuously expand? Because now this is my new, not addiction, but it's a passion, and that's something I was lacking for so long. Without passion or inspiration, everything else is just kind of, and then you feel unfulfilled, and you're reaching for outside things to make yourself feel whole, and so, anyway, so I want to share, instead of talking about sleep paralysis, I'll do that another day. It's so dark. But in my video, I'm definitely going to have some solutions. I'm all about solutions. So anyway, this one, I'm going to talk about one area of panic attacks, and why, I feel so good not to have them anymore. And knock on wood, I mean, I've had it before where they disappear for a couple of years, and then they kind of come back and creep back into my life. Now I feel like I have the tools and wisdom to keep them at bay, and so I want to share that. Anyway, a lot of what
So I went to therapy for a little bit, off and on. As soon as I'd feel better, I would just, I wasn't really good at sticking to anything. But I did seek therapy back in like 2006. I tried to find, we do things all by the book, so to speak. I'll go to see a therapist because I'm having panic attacks. And the first place I went was the ER because, if you've ever experienced a panic attack, it feels like a heart attack. Because it feels like a heart attack. And it's really, 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 really scary. So I ended up at the ER. The ER referred me to go see a doctor. The doctor referred me to a psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist also suggested going to a therapist to talk about it. And so this was forever ago, right? So off and on, I'd go to therapy whenever they would come back. And because I've always not wanted to rely on, because the psychiatrist told me, he's like, you're probably gonna have to take antidepressants. And back then I was like, but I'm not depressed. You don't understand. I'm not depressed. So I just felt like that's kind of lame. I don't have to take something every day when I don't feel sad every day. So I still did eventually try it. I think years later I did try it because the panic attacks came back. Long story short there, what ended up helping me, there's a lot of things that helped me. That's what a lot of what this channel is going to be about. But what ended up helping me nowadays, fast forward to 15 years later, I just always know that I have my emergency, I think it's Ativan. I haven't had to take them in, like 18 months. I haven't had to take one. So that's great. Going from having to take them several times a week to I haven't had to touch them in a long time. That's awesome. It's like obvious growth. So I want to kind of share, how we keep them at bay. Because a lot of times you hear, oh, just meditate or just, you're like, I can't meditate right now, dude. Like I'm panicking. But that's the thing too. That's a misconception. We're not actually like panicking. The panic attack feels like you're having a heart attack, and it comes out of nowhere, and it lasts forever. It doesn't come and go like an anxiety attack. Panic attacks I've had, the longest one I had was 10 hours long, and that's the one I ended up going to the ER for because I just couldn't. It was unbearable. I tried everything. My first thing I did was take off my bra, and I was still at work, like underneath my. I was just like, I just couldn't breathe. Then I took off my belt, and then I'm like, I have to go, and couldn't breathe well, and then try to take a bath. I tried to sleep. Yeah, right, tried to sleep, and then eventually ended up at the ER, and it was gone in 15 minutes. So it's like, okay, it's definitely psychological. It's not, and of course they did chest X-rays, EKG, all that stuff. And that happened not just once, not twice, but 3 times I've had to be in the hospital for that's sad. I laugh about it because it's over. And now I feel like I have the tools to get over it. Well, I feel one coming on. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, now that I know a lot more from the spiritual perspective of what our emotions are, what they truly, truly are, and how valuable our emotions are, that in itself was like, oh my gosh, because if you're oppressing them all the time, if you're oppressing your emotions, subconsciously or consciously, I usually did it subconsciously, if you're oppressing them all the time, then you're really not knowing how to navigate through life. And so I'll take an example. I didn't realize why I was having the panic attacks until I went to finally, 10 years after having them, I went to a hypnotherapist. And I was working at a bar, and the neighbor, he owned the pizzeria next door. Him and I got to talking, and he's like, oh yeah, I always have my emergency pill. I'm like, oh, me too. I'm like, so, and then I'm like, how do you cope, and what really helped you? And he's like, oh, I started seeing a hypnotherapist, and I haven't had to take this thing since. I'm like, ooh, okay, interesting. And it took me another like year or two to finally go. And she uncovered something that was really, really, really interesting to me that no therapist or psychiatrist or doctor or ER doctor ever uncovered, of course, because they're not going to get the ER doctor. Definitely not. Here's a pill, go away. Anyway, she uncovered that, and it might seem completely obvious now, but then I didn't really realize it. She uncovered that my panic would come about when I subconsciously thought I was being judged by others or myself. We are our own worst critics, right? We are so mean to ourselves. But a lot of that is because of our conditioning and our programming from other people. What our boss might think, what our mom might think, what our grandma might think, what our pastor might think, what our boyfriend might think or girlfriend. It is what our neighbor might think. It is absolutely ridiculous, and it's all programming, and it's so embedded in us. It's so embedded in our subconscious that we can't really control it in real time. So a lot of the times my panic would just come out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. And, you know, the first feeling you get is the feeling of a heart attack, but then they're also feeling trapped. You feel trapped, like there's no escaping it. Like you're in like a chokehold and an anvil's dropped on you, and it feels horrible. And what's worse, someone from the outside looking at you can't tell. Like they look at you, you're like, you look fine. It's like, you don't understand. Like it feels like something, like a huge snake is coiled around me and suffocating me. So yeah, I look fine, but I feel awful. So then that adds another layer to it. Like, oh my God, what must they think of me right now? And that, by the way, was a big, big red flag with my ex and I. And what prompted me to break up with him was because of his lack of compassion while I was having a panic attack in the middle of the desert, by the way. So yeah. Anyway, red flag. But in hindsight now, I'm like, okay, he just didn't get it. He really didn't get it. He didn't understand. Even my one of my sisters, she's like, just breathe. It's like, you don't get it. I'm trying. So now I have a different perspective, and I have for a few years. But now I'm learning more and more and more about what triggers them and how to. You can't see them coming, you know, you really can't, but it all boils down to having that proper baseline. You know, the more clear this vessel is, toxin wise. So toxins can be not just what you eat and what you digest and what you guzzle, but also the people around you, the content you're exposing yourself to. Anything remotely negative coming your way. So when I do a detox, I don't just detox the inside of my body, I detox all of the outside as well. And so if you have a very stressful job, it might be a good time to take a couple personal days or whatever to yourself as part of the detox, because you want to come back refreshed and with, I'll get into that later, but if you're at work 8-10 hours a day and it's all like, that's good, you're gonna have a panic attack. And I learned that the hard way. I just kept plugging away and just, I still have a wonderful work ethic, and I took pride in that. And so I was always a hard worker. I was great at my job. This was back in 2006. So I was in sales and marketing at the time for medical devices, and I loved my job. I was proud of myself. I loved what I did. But I realized later that the lack of movement from sitting at the desk, the lack of movement, lack of creativity, lack of passion, and being constantly feeling like I was being judged, most of it was on myself, by the way. That whole combination really, basically, what your body will do after so much time is it will find a way for you to get out of the situation if it's not aligned with yourself, with your higher self, with what you and what you set out to do here on this earth, what your passion really is. So So you need a proper baseline, right, in order to connect with your higher self, so you know that you're in the right place at the right time. Excuse me. So you know what you're doing is truly what you want to do at your core, And if it's not truly what you want to do at your core, you will keep having those panic attacks and having those panic attacks and having anxiety attacks, and then other things might manifest too. One thing that manifested was, and this was right around the same time I was having panic attacks, was I was going blind in my right eye. So right here, like my vision all right here was just, I wouldn't say gone, but it was white and gold and like really fuzzy. And so I went to a doctor, of course, and this went on for days. And what was weird, it was always around the same time of day. It was always when I was getting off of work. On my drive to work, I'd be like, oh my God. And I was in my early 20s and I was relatively healthy at the time. And so I went to a doctor, and then they sent me to, again, a psychiatrist again. And then, of course, pills, muscle relaxers, sleep pills, because they said it's all stress related, right? It is, in a way, yeah. But that's not getting to the root of the problem. So pills, sent me to a psychiatrist. Oh, and that I think that's when they tried to give me the depression pills. And I think that's when I was willing to try, because I was like, okay, my body's like eating itself. Panic attacks, going blind, like what the heck? So so then I finally went to a chiropractor, and she's the one that put together that, because I'm sitting like this all the time and I carry all my stress in my upper back, that my body had basically had all these knots, or my back had all these knots, and it was stopping oxygen and, other things, spinal fluid probably, from getting to my brain. So, yeah, it's all connected. And she's like, well, you have to loosen that up and then it'll go away on its own. I was like, thank you. Like, oh my God, someone who thinks outside the box and actually got to the root of the problem. So I know I got a little off track. I'm off panic attacks now, but it is all connected. It's all to do with stress, and it's all to do with it's to do with pushing yourself into doing something you don't actually want to do. It's not something you, at your core, you're pushing yourself to do something that other people expect of you. Not truly what you want to do, even if you might think that it is what you want to do. That's all programming. So about a year ago, I have all these journals. I've got my owner's manual, my meditation journal, my 2021 journal. This was all about shifting my paradigm and going into 2021 with a whole new paradigm and outlook. And, it's a work in progress always. So 2021. And then, of course, my other daily, my tarot, there's all these different journals. And it's great because all of that, a lot of the other reason we have panic is because of all the emotions we're not processing. We're not processing when we want to vent. Venting is, it holds value, but it can also be toxic, right? So that's why I started doing my video diaries. Anytime I used to want to have a beer or just get something out because it was really irritating me, I would just talk it out with myself. Saying things out loud and have a really, really powerful effect. There we go. Anyway, back to the owner's manual. My very, very, very first rule to avoid, this all goes into setting boundaries and removing judgment from other people or for yourself. Anyway, rule number 1 is still extremely valid and will always be rule number 1. And that is never, under any circumstance, do anything you don't actually want to do. And if I go back and think of all the times I've had a panic attack, it was because I was forcing myself in some way, shape, or form. I was forcing myself to do something I didn't actually want to do at my core, So when you're not in alignment with yourself, it's almost like your soul is sending you little abort, 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 get out of the situation. No, no, don't do it. Which can also include your effing job. So, wow, right? So another story, job-wise, I'll try to make this quick. And then this is just probably just like I'm noticing a trend. I'm gonna have like story 1 or video part 1, part 2, part 3, because you can't just solve everyone's problems in one video, and and part of the reason I make these videos is to remind myself of things, and remind myself of things I've overcome, and remind myself that when I'm feeling dark or down or whatever, to just go back to these so that I can re-inspire myself to just, part of reprogramming is we need these constant reminders. The original program isn't working. It's what causes depression. It's what causes addictions. It's what causes trauma. It's what causes a lot of despair. It's hell on earth, really. And so when you shift the paradigm into new programming, we need these constant reminders because it's reprogramming. So we need to remind ourselves of all the goodness and deliciousness and joy and gratitude and blessings, and we need to remind ourselves of those things. So hence my videos. I need like daily reminders. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, panic attacks. So if we're going to be using our 1 second. So if we're going to be using our own emotions to kind of navigate through life, like where do I go? What do I do? What is my passion? What does inspire me? What do I like? Do I love my job, or is there something about it that I don't like? Oh yeah, I was going to tell that story, but I'll tell that story in a bit. But so once you have, well, I don't like to say you have to, but what worked best for me was the detoxing, because when you detox, you're getting in alignment, and a lot of what I say and what I'm going to say is going to seem counterintuitive. That's because of we base things on old programming. So into the new programming, it's going to seem counterintuitive because it doesn't make sense. A lot of it seems like how is that related? But detoxing all of the crud out of your body, and then of course shutting off like news and negative people, Debbie Downers, putting your head down at work and just doing the job, whatever you got to do, take a few days off. Detox the people and all that out of your life just for a few days. I did it for 6 weeks to really, 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 of course this was during lockdown, so it was relatively easy to do. I still worked. I still did what I had to, but I created this baseline of, wake up in the morning, have my morning routine. The first 5 things were always, make my bed, brush my teeth, make the coffee, feed the cats, and then do some sort of yoga or meditation or walk every morning. Every single morning. Every morning I was up at like 6 in the morning, and that's when it would start, and then I can ease into my day. So let's say you have to do something at 8 in the morning. Get up at 4. It might, of course you want it to be easy. You don't want it to be like, oh no, but like eventually we all have to tailor and curate our lives specifically for us. But for me, that's what I was doing. I was getting up at 5:36 in the morning and just doing those first 5 things, and then also doing a diary every morning. How did I sleep? What did I get accomplished the day before? What am I grateful for? What am I looking forward to do today? Doing that, kind of setting the tone and intention of the day. And that really, really helped set a nice foundation for every single day. So this is creating the new baseline, this new foundation, and it's practically invisible to other people. It doesn't matter because it's not for other people. It's for you. Building this proper baseline, and then creating boundaries with people. Easier said than done. This is something I'm constantly going to have to learn. For me, a lot of it's with my family. Like right now, we got Labor Day coming up, and how I feel changes from day to day. I might this is why I don't like making plans too far into the future, because I don't know how I'm going to feel the day of. Like, I don't want to plan a barbecue at my house And then like, oh, I'm so excited about it. And then and the day will come and I'll be like, I just want to be alone in a cocoon all day. Like, I feel like drawing today, you know? So I try not to commit to things too far ahead of time. But I have a large family. So I've kind of had to set these boundaries with them and just say, look, a lot of the reason why I used to drink so much, just being honest here, is because I would get, you know, anxiety and like social anxiety, and a lot of that social anxiety came from judgment, which can trigger a panic attack. So to keep that at bay, I would drink so that I would prime myself to be able to handle the social engagement. It was just a mess. So it's like, guys, just to make this easier, I may or may not show up. Like, oh, they all get it. They're like totally supportive of that. And so I'm already starting to feel a little bit of that, like, you know, one of my little sisters mentioned, like, so are you coming or are we doing this? And I'm just like, I don't, like chill out. I don't know. I don't like any kind of pressure, especially because I don't know how I'm going to feel that day. So setting boundaries, having a baseline that's good for you. This is all custom tailored, and, you know, I'll engage, but not too much to where I'll put unnecessary pressure on myself, you know. And a lot of it is like, I'm just thinking that they're judging me, but they're probably not. So that's something I have to work on. A lot of it's my own stuff. I am so afraid of disappointing somebody. I have to just like, it's almost like you have to find this part of yourself that is like crazy selfish, because I've always been more selfless and giving and want to please everybody, and that backfires every time. So at the end of the day, you have to look at it as an executive decision. What is truly good for my health? Is it going? And it might be, you know, I might want to tell stories at my family gathering. I might want to bring a fruit platter and play with my niece and nephew and jump on the trampoline and eat hot dogs. I might want to do that. But if I'm feeling more like my creative juices are flowing and I'm, you know, more in a different state, you know, maybe just pop my head in and be like, guys, I have stuff I have to do today. Love you. Bye. You know, bring a little care package or something. It doesn't, you know, it's going to be whatever I make of it now. But that is part of setting boundaries. Just don't feel bad for not going somewhere. Don't feel bad for not overly committing to something. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to suffer the panic attack. We're the ones that have to carry the unnecessary resentments, you know, towards ourselves or towards someone who expected us and made us feel obligated to be somewhere. But at the end of the day, we're making ourselves feel obligated. We don't have to do anything we don't actually want to do. So that's why I always have to revert back to my number one rule. Like, never, ever, ever do anything don't do it if you don't actually want to do it. And that can change from one day to the next. So I'm not saying to not be a committed person, but if it's affecting your health, then don't. Like, that's just set boundaries and be like, hey, I might be able to make it, I might not. I have tentative plans with my couch, you know. Or desk or garden, you know, whatever. It's no one's business, you know. And this is something my hypnotherapist had to remind me of, is like, it is absolutely no one's business when you are a self-sufficient human being and you pay your own bills and you work your butt off and you know, you've created your own foundation. It is absolutely no one's business what you're doing with your day. It's no one's business. If you're causing no harm to anybody and you're actually trying to enrich your life, you don't owe anyone an explanation as to why you can't go to the baby shower, or why you can't go to someone's birthday dinner, or why you can't make it to their garage sale, or why you can't make it to help them move somewhere. You know, like, I still have, like, the other day, I said yes before even actually thinking about it. I said yes to, like, helping someone move something. And it turns out she didn't need my help after all. But I was just like, Stacey, like, when are you going to learn? You might not feel up to it that day. And I didn't end up feeling up to it yesterday. Whew, I was saved by whoever ended up helping her or whatever. But anyway, so if we're going to learn anything, don't do anything you don't actually want to do. Set boundaries. Clear the vessel so that you can align with your higher self, so that you know if you're doing the right thing or not, if you're in the right space or not. And I'll do a whole other video on how that affects your work. I'll do that right now since I'm already talking about it. But anyway, this will be part 1. Yeah. And this is all tied to fear too. So we need to remove that. Okay, bye.